We got another College Football 25 update earlier this morning, and EA finally put out the details of what was in that update. We were kind of waiting around for a while. We didn't know exactly what had changed, but now we know. Now, today's update wasn't anything massive, but it did address quite a few key issues. Now, in about 10 days from what we've heard, there's going to be the next big title update for the game. Usually about once a month, you can expect a big update to come from the game. So we'll talk about some of the other stuff you can expect to come in that update as well. Now, if you are new here and you don't want to ever miss out on any of the info from these important updates like the one that's coming in 10 days or the ones that's going to come every month for the rest of the year, make sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon on so you don't miss out on any of that info. I usually have it for you guys the second they put the info out so that you always know what's happening with the game. So like I said earlier this morning, we had an update. Nobody knew exactly what had happened because they did not put any notes out on it. Now, usually when it's not a big title update, they don't put out a big blog on their website. They'll usually make a post on their forums, which is what they did today. The big title updates, the notes will always drop pretty much right when the update comes out for the most part. But when it's a smaller update like this, usually they don't put the notes out right away because this wasn't a planned update, I don't think. This was more of a hot fix to address some of the stuff that broke in the game after they updated it the last time. So on their forums, what they had to say was, "Hey there, college football community. Today you received an update on all platforms for College Football 25. The team wanted to provide you with some notes about the changes that came with this update." And it says here they fixed an issue where the scoreboards would disappear during a game. Definitely saw that happen when you would show your player. Sometimes even in Super Sim, I think this happened. So it looks like they got that addressed. It also says they fixed an issue for offline dynasty files where freshman players were not shown in the player list for position changes. So they finally got that addressed as well. I think some of this stuff was addressed for the online dynasties, but as they said, they needed to put out an update for it to fix the offline dynasties because when you're online and they hot fix something, it gets automatically updated. So that's just something for future reference. Start cloud dynasties potentially because if something does break, they can fix it quicker usually. They also fixed an issue where the game would freeze when performing an onside kick in both online and offline dynasty mode. I actually had not heard about that one. I hadn't seen anybody post about that one personally, not here or anywhere else. But if that was the issue, it sounds like they did get it fixed. And they also fixed an issue where changing your scheme or playbooks would affect your player's archetype and overall based on the choice in offline dynasty file. So that was like one of the bigger things that happened with the last update, and it kind of messed up some people's dynasty modes when they accidentally went in and changed this. Again, this was already fixed for the online dynasties, but now it's also fixed for offline as well. Now we're going to talk about some of the stuff you can expect in the next update, which like I said is about 10 days away from what we've heard. But really quickly, I want to mention that we are still sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. If you like sports and you like winning money, then you've got to be on Underdog Fantasy playing their pick'em game. Basically, all you have to do is pick higher or lower on a wide variety of player stats, and if they hit, you can win some good money. And the best part about Underdog Fantasy is they'll always give you a free play at sign up, and they give you a lot of bonus cash when you sign up as well. And with football starting back up finally, they're going to be throwing out a ton of specials every week, like a quarterback to get a single yard. Don't forget we got college football this weekend too, so there's going to be some specials for that as well. And no matter when you sign up, there'll always be some type of a free play to take advantage of. And even better than that, they're now officially giving you up to $1,000 in bonus cash at sign up if you use my code RAY, R-A-Y. Free play plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash. You just can't beat that. Now let's talk about what else we can expect coming soon in the next title update for College Football 25, which, like I said, should be about 10 days away, August 29th. And the reason we know this is because somebody who works for Virginia, they tweeted about a week ago that they chatted with EA and they assured them that the students and the fans on the Hill would be added in Title Update 3. And he said Title Update 3 is scheduled 45 days after the original launch of College Football 25, which would be August 29th. So that's one thing we know that's being added is they're going to be adding more to stadiums and environments and things like that. We don't know if it's just going to be for Virginia, but it's probably going to be for a lot of stadiums because we saw in the previous update that just dropped that they did fix a number of stadiums in them. I think it was like 8 or 9 of them. You know, they redid Kansas's stadium and put the updated one in the game. They fixed an error with the Texas State Stadium, I believe. And there was a number of other ones where they had to address certain things that were just slightly inaccurate. And when you've got 134 teams, everything is not probably going to be 100% perfect. They're going to have to go in and tweak it. They're going to have to up the environments. They're going to have to add the little bells and whistles to things like fans standing in certain sections maybe, or standing on the hill in this case. So we know stuff like that is coming in this update and probably in future updates as well. Now, the only thing I will say is while he said 8/29, I don't think that is a confirmed or official date, but it pretty much adds up with how they do updates with Madden. Usually you get one big one every month. So if for whatever reason it's not August 29th, it would probably be the week following that. So like I said, we're about 2 weeks away, worst case, from this next update. And aside from what we just talked about, we're also going to be getting some gameplay updates as well. The first few updates of any game from EA is always going to have gameplay tweaks in them. They're going to, fix some things that are glitchy, things that people found that were broken, which is what they did in the last update. They patched the spins and the jukes a little bit. They made the pursuit a little bit better and things like that. So they're always going to be tweaking and adjusting stuff like that. I believe one of the things they're going to be looking to address is probably zone defense as well. And this is also kind of an issue with Madden this year. The zones just don't really play tight enough. They kind of just let players run by them a little too much and they don't react quick enough. So I would expect them to be addressing that because that's something they tweak almost every single year in Madden. And I don't see why it would be any different here. Because once again, I will remind you, most of the gameplay devs are the same for both teams. Yes, college football has their own dynasty devs and road to glory, and they have their own leaders and stuff like that, their own decision makers, sure, but in terms of gameplay, they share a lot of the same gameplay people, and that's why you have a lot of gameplay similarities with both games, even though there also are some major differences like the game speed and the movement. But when you're talking about things like zones and plays and stuff like that, you're dealing with a lot of the same people, so the way that they attack Madden and they tweak things throughout the year, I would expect them to do that same thing with college football. Now, another thing we know about are new uniforms. This is something they said they're going to update pretty much every single update for the most part, and they said by year's end, we're going to have way more uniforms than we even have now, and right now we have a pretty good amount. I mean, most teams have at least 5 or 6 for the most part, and some teams have over 10, some teams have over 15, but they're going to be adding more and more to every update. But one thing I did want to throw out there that I found out recently that I think is interesting, and I know most of you probably don't know this because I didn't know this myself. They can only put uniforms in the game that teams sign off on. So some teams are like, yeah, put whatever, we don't care, use whatever uniforms we have, don't matter how old they are, how new they are, whatever, use them. But other teams will not let them use certain uniforms if they're not going to be using them this year, for example, which is a little uptight, but some teams are just uptight about things like that. So just keep that in mind, because there are some uniforms that they just might not be able to put in the game because the team just doesn't want them in the game because they're not wearing them anymore, or they're not planning to wear them this season, and they want their team to be accurately represented in the game, whereas other schools are like, I don't care if we haven't worn this in 10 years, you could put it in the game, it's a video game. So they're kind of at the mercy of that a little bit, but even with that said, they're going to keep adding more and more with each update, and we should have more coming from what I've heard with this next update. Of course, they're still going to be updating things with Dynasty and Road to Glory as well. We know there still are some issues in those modes. They did attack a lot of them in the last update. They also just addressed some more of them today, but the modes still aren't perfect. They still have some other issues that they are looking into fixing, so we should see some of those coming in this update as well. Which specific ones are going to be addressed, or if all of them are going to be addressed, that I don't know, but I know some of them definitely will be. And there could be some potential tweaking going on with things like recruiting, for example. We saw them tune recruiting in the last update, but those are things that might need to be fine-tuned all year long because people are going to find new strategies, and they're maybe going to want to stay ahead of the meta on that and make little adjustments so that recruiting stays challenging throughout the year. So that's something else I would expect them to constantly do, not even just in this update coming up, but the ones that follow. Now, if you want to see all of the new plays, uniforms, and stadium changes that were added in the last update, if you happen to miss it, check out this video right here on the screen.